Winterfell lay draped in a mantle of frost and silence. The gods would breathing pale wisps of mist into the frigid dawn. Lord Eddard Stark stood upon the battlements above the inner gatehouse, his gray cloak stirring in a breeze that smelled of pine pitch and distant snow. Below him the castle roused, blacksmiths set hammers to anvils, kennel masters unchained restless hounds, and the outer ward filled with the clatter of shield drills. Yet Ned heard none of it. All his senses were turned inward, fixed upon a single perilous resolution. The ravens had flown in darkness, bearing words that could unmake kingdoms. Lord Eddard Stark, Warden of the North, Hand of the King, and a man who weighed oath and honor with equal gravity, had read those words by candlelight 3 nights past. Since then their ink had bled into his waking thoughts, like iron into snow. Ash, we have long watched the lion gnaw the stag and the falcon circle his broken antlers. Shall the wolf wait for bones? Highgarden will rise with you, but secret and swift. Send the birch leaf at first quarter. There was no sigil or seal, only that careful cipher. But Ned knew the hand. Prince Renly Baratheon's elegant, hasty strokes. And behind Renly stood House Tyrell, Mace in his gold-green glory, Lady Olenna with eyes sharp as needles, and hosts upon hosts of rose-bladed lances blooming beneath banners of pale green. If the letter were truth and not perfidy, the North need not march alone against Lannister intrigues. Yet secrecy was the soil in which treason grew. One misjudged whisper and all Winterfell would drown in Lannister gold and Bolton treachery alike. Ned's pulse beat steady even as dread lapped at its edges. He had made darker choices, riding south to serve a friend king who was little more than fat and wine-sodden, accepting the poisoned chalice of the Hand's chain, uncovering truths that would damn innocent children. Yet never had he conspired in shadow with a southern power since the fall of the Targaryens. Footsteps crunched behind him. He turned to find Maester Luwin ascending, his robes heavy with fresh fallen rime. A raven, sleek black save for a single white feather at the throat, perched upon the maester's gloved arm, its head cocked in shrewd stillness. "My lord," Luwin greeted, lowering his voice though no guards lingered within earshot. "The bird from White Harbor returns. Lord Wyman confirms the river routes remain ice-locked, but his harbor is clear. Grain ships from Old Town lie at anchor, awaiting quiet lading." Ned's breath ghosted. "Old Town," he echoed, eyes narrowing. "And who rules Old Town?" "House Hightower," Luwin answered. "Yet Hightower holds allegiance to Highgarden, and Mace Tyrell's banners fly above their keys this winter." The maester's gaze flicked to the raven. "You trust this alliance?" "I trust no alliance," Ned said. "But I trust that Lannister talons close round the Iron Throne with every hour we delay. And I would sooner gamble with roses than with lions." He stroked the raven's white feather, an omen, perhaps, of snow meeting Southron blossom. "Send word to Lord Wyman," he commanded, "that Winterfell's grain shall buy its birth at White Harbor, and that our wolves will hunt in new fields come spring. But no sigils, no seals. Only the birch leaf, and only to be shown at first quarter moon." Luwin nodded, the bells at his throat chiming softly. That night, Ned shared ale with his brother Benjen in the dim warmth of the great hall's side hearth. Robb sparred in the yard until torches guttered. Bran and Rickon dozed beside the direwolves, and Catelyn wore a mask of calm, though her eyes flickered with unspoken worry beneath lamplight. She sensed it already, Ned knew, the hush before a thunderclap. Benjen set down his cup. "You mean to ride south again?" he said flatly. Across the table, a candle cast blue-white edges upon his face, making him look half ice, half shadow. Ned answered with silence. "The wall is quiet," his brother went on. "Wildlings vanish beyond the haunted forest, and Mance Rayder has not stirred. But here in Winterfell your gaze drifts like a man already astride the King's Road." Ned's fingers tightened around his cup. "I would spare you this burden, little brother. You cannot. You never could." Benjen leaned forward. "Tell me the road and I will ride it with you." But Ned shook his head. "Your vows bind you to the Night's Watch. Mine." He glanced at Catelyn, then at the vaulted timbers overhead. and mine bind me to every soul beneath this roof, aye, and to the realm beyond." He rose, beckoning Benjen toward the hall's heavy doors. Outside, snowflakes danced like pale cinders in the torchlight. Ned drew his cloak close. "I must return to King's Landing," he said. Alone save for 8 trusted guards and 2 innocents the Lannisters would hesitate to slay on open street. "My daughters." Benjen's brow furrowed. "You will take Sansa and Arya into that nest?" "I vowed to give the king my counsel," Ned replied, voice a growl of frost and steel. "I intend to keep that vow while I breathe, and if Highgarden truly stands with the North, we will have need of a hand's eyes and ears in the capital." He laid a hand upon Benjen's shoulder. "Guard the wall, brother. Guard the realm. For if this alliance falters, winter may march not from the north alone." 5 days later, a lean column of riders slipped from Winterfell's eastern gate at dawn, their horses shrouded in thick wool against the biting wind. Ned rode at their head, gray fur ruffed about his shoulders, the sword ice swaddled upon a packhorse. Sansa's auburn tresses glimmered beneath a hood of silver blue, while Arya's wolfskin cloak dragged like a banner of the untamed snows. They crossed the King's Road beneath spires of hoar-frosted pine, the horizon tinted blood-pink by the rising sun. At every village they avoided long halts, taking bread and salted pork in silence. News traveled faster than ravens. Lord Eddard Stark rode south once more, children in tow. Some small folk cheered them, "Honor, honor," while others cast wary looks, muttering of direwolves and southern plots. Ned forbade his men to linger at alehouses. Coin bought tongues, and tongues bought daggers. Nights he wrote by firelight, ink freezing in the quill, parchment cracking, letters bound for White Harbor, Moat Cailin, and the Fingers. The words were careful, never naming Mace or Renly, only the symbol of the birch and the promise of a spring unfurling beneath northern snows. Each missive Ned sealed not with wax but with frost. He pressed the parchment into the snow until the edges iced together. No crest, no proof for spies. In the haunted ruins of Moat Cailin, they found a lone crannogman crouched beside a broken tower, spearing fat frogs from pools black as ink. The man hailed Ned by name, yet cowered before ice's wolf-head pommel. "The causeway calls, Lord," he rasped, water dripping from his beard. "South waits poison. Gold cloaks march north as far as the Twins. Them Freys take coin from every purse." He spat, tongue blackened by swamp water. "Trust naught that walks on stone, Lord hand." Ned offered coin for safe passage, but the crannogman thrust it back. "What use have we for silver in the marsh? Keep your metal. Keep your secrets, too." Then he slipped between reeds and was gone, as silent as evening fog. 3 weeks later, they reached the bustling sprawl of King's Landing under a sky bruised purple with gathering storm clouds. The city's stench clung to Sansa's silks and Arya's boots alike. Dung, rotting fish, sour wine. But Ned smelled something fouler. Blood upon cobblestones and whispers upon every guttering torch. The Red Keep loomed above the shambles like a dragon's skull. At the mud gate, gold cloaks bowed low, though their eyes gleamed sharp beneath brass helmets. Ned counted emblems new forged upon their baldricks. A crimson lion where once stag antlers reared. Within Maegor's holdfast he was greeted by the king's steward, an anxious little man who stammered about hunting accidents and Queen Cersei's daily counsels. Robert Baratheon lay abed with a spear wound to the thigh, claimed the steward, earned when a boar surprised him in the Blackwater rush. "His grace bleeds greatly, my lord," the man whispered, "yet drinks the wound away with strong wine, or bleeds into a cup Cersei holds beneath the bed," Ned thought. His jaw tightened. He left Sansa and Arya under the watch of Septa Mordane and Ser Allen, then strode alone through winding crimson corridors to the Tower of the Hand. There he found Renly waiting, groomed impeccable, green velvet doublet embroidered with golden roses. The younger Baratheon rose from a cushioned bench with a feline smile. "Lord Stark," he greeted, voice purring. "You found the birch." "And you, the wolf," Ned returned, allowing a fraction of warmth. He stepped inside and closed the door. "No spies." "Spies enough," but none that breathe now. Renly's eyes flashed. The Queen's hounds sniff my every footstep, but Highgarden trains its own breed. From his cloak he produced another letter, this one sealed with plain wax. Mace sends word. 50,000 men stand ready upon the Mander. He counsels haste, yet secrecy above all. Once the roses bloom, they will not be uprooted. Ned crossed to the hearth. Flames painted orange runnels across the granite floor. The north marches slower, he said, and winter slows us further. But if we strike the lion here, in the heart, my banners will answer before summer's end. Then strike we shall. Renly's grin hardened into iron. But not alone. Lord Hightower readies ships at Old Town to sail Blackwater Bay unannounced. Once within the harbor, they will disgorge garden knights in the shadow of the city walls. Meanwhile, my Lord Father, he inclined his head ironically, will race from Marjorie's betrothal to whoever sits the throne next. We need only cut the lion's throat afore the stag he bleeds dry. Ned felt cold despite the fire. Robert is no lion's puppet, he said, but he is wounded and ill-guided. I would see him roused, not slain. Renly's fingers traced the pommel of his sword. Your mercy does you credit, Lord Stark, but it is late in the game. Cersei will not spare you or your daughters, once she grasps the tale you pursue. I grasp it already. Ned's voice lowered. The children are not Robert's. The line ends with him. That truth is your blade, Renly replied. Unsheath it on the morrow, and the small council will tear Cersei's brood apart. With Robert bedridden and Joffrey's bastardy exposed, the realm must name a regent. I am Baratheon by blood and claim. Support me and Highgarden will kneel to Winterfell's banners. Ned studied the young man's eager face, handsome, unlined, yet cunning beyond his years. He recalled another Baratheon once, broad-shouldered and fearless, who laughed at death and loved with reckless heart. Robert had been a brother to him. This one was a stranger. I will not crown a man through whispers, Ned said, nor by forging the same lies I seek to destroy. Let papers speak. Robert's will, the law, the line of succession. Renly's smile faded. Law bows to power, Stark. Power rides with us if only you seize it. He stepped back, cloak swirling. Consider well. At sunrise I summon the small council. Come with the truth unsheathed, or watch the lion devour all. When Renly left, Ned breathed the scent of smoke and oil. He pulled a northern dirk from his boot and carved a single birch leaf into the wooden desk. Small, delicate, yet unbreakable. Deep past the hour of the owl, Ned stood upon the balcony of the Tower of the Hand, looking down upon a city shimmering with torchlight. Far below, in twisting alleys, beggars warmed hands beside brazier fires while sellswords dallied with whores. Above, the Red Keep's ramparts bristled with gold cloaks. And beyond, the Blackwater Bay rolled black as spilled ink, moonlight slivering its waves. He heard footsteps behind him, light, swift, then felt Arya's presence before she spoke. Father, her voice quavered, brave yet brittle. You're planning something. Ned turned and crouched, meeting her fierce gray eyes. In them he saw Catelyn's fire and his own stubborn honor. He gentled a hand to her cheek. He murmured, something dangerous. Are we going to fight the Queen? Arya asked. We fight for the realm, he said, and for the innocent. Her fingers found the leather grip of needle, belted beneath her cloak. I'll fight too, he smiled sadly. Not yet, little wolf. Your fight is to stay silent, to watch with clear eyes, and to remember. One day you may need to tell the tale of this night, truthfully and without fear. She nodded, though tears glimmered. Ned drew her into his arms, feeling her slight frame tremble. Above them the wind howled, carrying scents of salt, rose petals, and distant snow. Dawn ruptured the sky with veins of scarlet when Ned Stark strode into the small council chamber, flanked only by Ser Barristan Selmy. Grand Maester Pycelle hunched at the long table, shuffling parchments. Varys fluttered pale hands in mock surprise, and Peter Baelish lounged cat-like by the window, a thin smile carving his beard. But it was Renly who drew all eyes. He stood at the head of the table, sword unsheathed, green armor glinting like polished emeralds. At his side a parchment lay unfurled. Robert's royal seal, cracked, crimson wax still fresh. "Lord Stark," Renly proclaimed, voice ringing off marble columns. "His Grace Robert Baratheon, first of his name, lies grievously wounded. By his sealed decree," he tapped the parchment. "He names me protector of the realm until such time as Prince Joffrey comes of age." Pycelle croaked. "Prince? Joffrey is no prince," Ned interrupted, calm but unyielding. He set a book upon the table, the lineages and histories of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms, and opened it to pages he had marked with birch leaves. "The boy is Lannister by blood, born of incest between Queen Cersei and her brother Jaime. His claim is a lie." Baelish's eyebrows soared in theatrical shock. Varys pursed his lips. Renly's eyes burned triumphant. "Proof," Pycelle demanded, yet his fingers trembled as though he already knew. Ned laid out parchments. Birth records of Baratheon bastards, black-haired, all. Testimonies of midwives, the ledgers of Storm's End. Finally, he drew a lock of golden hair bound with crimson thread. "From Joffrey's cradle," he said softly, "gold as the lion's mane." Silence stretched like a drawn bow. At last Renly spoke. "Then by law and blood the throne must pass to Stannis Baratheon, Robert's elder brother." Pycelle sagged. "Stannis, stern, unloved, and far upon Dragonstone. Half the realm will not follow him. Yet follow him they must," Ned said, "or break the realm." He fixed each man with Winterfell's chill. "I ask this council to sign Robert's will naming me Lord Regent until Stannis may claim his crown. I will send ravens to Dragonstone at once." Baelish tapped a finger upon the table. "A noble course," he drawled. "Were the queen not to hear of it and summon her lions." Renly slapped the parchment. "Highgarden stands ready. 50,000 men ride within a fortnight." Pycelle's eyes bulged. "Treachery. You intend civil war." "No," Ned said. "I intend the lawful succession." Varys sighed, folding hands like pale spiders. "My lords, the game lies already on its edge. The queen will move swiftly." Ned faced them all. "Then we must move swifter, and with honor." He dipped a quill in ink and signed Robert's will with bold strokes. Eddard Stark. Renly signed next, then Ser Barristan with a hand that did not shake. Varys followed, murmur soft as dust. Pycelle began to protest, but a single glance from Ned stilled him. Trembling, the old man dabbed the quill and scratched his name. Only Baelish remained. Littlefinger smiled. "I am but master of coin," he teased. "Yet even a coin has two faces." He set his flourish upon the page, then rolled the parchment, sealing it with plain wax. When it was done, Ned exhaled. "Send riders," he ordered. "To Dragonstone, to Highgarden, to Winterfell. The wolf and the rose bloom together." But outside the chamber, the air crackled with unseen claws. Lannister eyes watched. Beyond the palace gates, gold cloaks shifted allegiance with every clink of coin. And somewhere in the Red Keep, Queen Cersei Lannister caressed the crimson silk of a new gown, smiling at rumors born on perfumed wind. That evening Ned found Sansa in a gallery overlooking the practice yard. Ser Island Payne drilled troops below, sword strokes sharp, silent. Sansa's face was pale as milk glass. She turned to her father with eyes swollen red. "They say the queen will send us away," she whispered, "to Casterly Rock as honored guests. She told me so herself." Ned knelt, heat prickling behind his eyes. "You are Stark and Tully both," he said. "No lion will cage you while I draw breath." Tears slid down her cheeks. "But Joffrey is not who he pretends. Remember that, Sansa. Hold it tight." He pressed a birch leaf pendant into her palm, carved of weirwood by Bran's own hand. "When the moment comes, trust no one but blood." She clutched the charm, nodding though her lips trembled. Night fell. Ned stood again upon the balcony, watching torches waver along the city walls. A storm gathered over Blackwater Bay, thunder rumbling like drums of war. Southward, he imagined rose banners unfurling across the reach, thousands of bright spears marching beneath green canopies. Northward, he pictured shaggy direwolf standards rippling against gray skies, lines of pikemen striding across frosted field and fawn. The realm stands upon a knife, he thought, and I am its edge. A raven flapped from darkness, alighting upon the parapet. Its breast feathers were white and slick with rain. A birch leaf, bound with a sprig of winter rose, dangled from its leg. Ned's pulse leapt. He freed the parchment, unrolled it beneath stormlight. Wolf, the Mander flows north, silent and swift. We depart on the morrow. Let the lion roar. Beware the viper's sting. Oh! Lady Olenna Tyrell's mark. A single spider sketched in black. Ned crushed the letter in his fist. The game would begin at dawn. He did not sleep. Instead, he donned mail and leather, sword at hip, cloak pinned with the direwolf. He paced the Tower of the Hand until first light bled into the sky. Bells rang to summon the court, their peals drowned by the crash of thunder from the bay. Rain sheeted the courtyard as Ned strode toward the throne room, Ser Barristan at his side, his own guard close behind. Gold cloaks barred the doors. Their captain eyed Ned, then bowed. "Lord Regent," he said, voice flat. "Ser Jaime commanded that only the king's blood may enter." Ned answered by drawing ice haft from its sheath. "Stand aside for the lawful regent, or stand before the headsman's block." The captain swallowed and stepped back. The doors swung wide. Within, torches guttered, casting monstrous shadows upon marble columns. The Iron Throne rose jagged, black as midnight. On its steps sat Queen Cersei, clad in crimson silk, crown of beaten gold upon her brow. At her left knelt Ser Jaime, armor gleaming. At her right stood Prince Joffrey, pale and thin-lipped, hand upon the hilt of a jeweled dagger. Cersei's smile was a blade. "Lord Stark," she purred, "you come armed into my presence?" "I come to present the king's will," Ned replied, voice echoing. He signaled Ser Barristan, who strode forward with the parchment. "His Grace Robert Baratheon appointed me regent and protector until Lord Stannis assumes the crown." Cersei's gaze flicked too. The scroll, lingering upon broken seal and fresh signatures. She laughed, a single cruel note. "And what of my son, Lord Stark?" "Your son." Ned took a breath. "Pray tell me, your grace, which son? For none of your brood bear a drop of Baratheon blood." A hush fell. Jaime's gauntlet creaked upon his sword. Joffrey flushed scarlet. But it was Cersei who rose, silk whispering, eyes aglow with wildfire. "Power," she said softly, "is power." She lifted a hand. Gold cloaks drew crossbows, notched bolts gleaming. Ned's guards tensed, but archers upon the gallery had arrows trained upon them tenfold. Ser Barristan looked stunned, sword half-drawn. "Captain," he barked at the gold cloaks. "You swore." The captain's face was stone. "We serve the queen." Cersei stepped down a stair, never removing her gaze from Ned. "You played your piece too slowly, Stark. Roses may bloom, wolves may howl, but lions feast upon both." She extended her hand. Jaime placed in it a dagger. Dragonbone hilt, Valyrian shard. Ned's pulse hammered. He forced calm, eyes scanning exits. Too many foes. Yet beyond these walls, Highgarden Road, Winterfell marched, Dragonstone awaited. If he fell now, the alliance might still ignite, if his daughters survived. He raised his voice. "A queen who sits upon stolen power sits upon sand. The realm will rise against you." Cersei smiled. "Then let it rise." She flicked the dagger to Joffrey, who caught it with trembling hand. Ned took a step forward, drawing ice fully. "Barristan," he said, steel low. "With me." The old knight hesitated, torn between vows. But then he lifted his blade. "Kingslayer," he mouthed, eyes fixed on Jaime. Sudden clang of steel rang as Ned's guards closed rank. Crossbow strings thrummed. Bolts hissed past Ned's ear, thudding into oak. He swung ice, cleaving a spear in two, then drove forward, Barristan at his flank. The throne room erupted shouts, screams, the howl of steel upon steel. Jaime charged, golden hair flying, sword flashing. Ned parried, blade jared by Kingslayer strength, sparks leaping. But even as battle raged, Ned saw red-gold figures flanking Sansa and Arya near a side door. Hound Grim, Hound Loyal? No. Sandor Clegane seized Arya's wrist, dragging her back toward the Queen's dais. Ned's heart cracked. He wove through blades, carving a path, but bolts rained from galleries. A guard fell, feathered. Another stag-leather boot slipped in blood. Barristan grappled 2 gold cloaks, blade lost, fists like hammers. "Father!" Arya cried, voice swallowed by chaos. Ned roared, hurling his dagger. It whirled end over end, burying in the breast of a gold cloak who barred his way. But Cersei's laughter pierced the din. She grasped Arya's hair, knife poised at her throat. Sansa wailed as guards wrenched her arms. "Yield," the Queen commanded. Time slowed. Rain thundered against stained glass high above. Lightning blazed, revealing faces contorted with fury, fear, resolve. Ned felt ice-heavy, his breath ragged. "If I die with sword swinging, they die beside me. If I yield, they may yet live." A decision carved from agony. He lowered ice. A hush rippled outward like shockwave. Cersei smiled, victory burning cold. "Kneel," she whispered. Ned Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, true hand of the king, knelt upon blood-slick marble. This is not defeat, he told himself, hearing his heart drum winter's march. This is the birch leaf in snow, the promise of spring unseen. Cersei beckoned. Gold cloaks closed, iron bindings clanking. They wrenched ice from Ned's grasp and pressed chains to his wrists. As they dragged him toward the dungeons, Ned met Renly's stare across the chaos. The younger Baratheon's face was white with horror, but his eyes blazed green fire. He vanished into a side door, cloak whipping like banner in gale. "Run," Ned willed him. "Run to Highgarden. Unfurl the rose. The wolf is bound, but the realm remembers." Lightning cracked once more, illuminating the Iron Throne, black and jagged, empty save for the ghosts of kings. Rain hammered the roof, drumming a dirge for honor lost, seed sown, and spring yet to break through hardened earth. And beneath the Red Keep, in darkness deep as winter night, Eddard Stark bowed his head, but his spirit rose beside unseen banners of green and gray, blooming in secret even as the lion roared. The tale has only begun. The stone beneath Eddard Stark's knees was cold and slick with the old damp of King Maegor's dungeons, and each breath tasted of rust and mold. Yet even here, with wrists manacled above his head and ankles chained to the wall, he found a measure of stillness. He had known darkness before, tracking poachers beneath the wolfswood canopy at midnight, keeping vigil beside Lyanna's birthing bed when the sun's rising felt an age away. Darkness sharpened the senses. It forced a man to know the boundaries of his will. So Ned counted heartbeats in the gloom, studied the distant drip of water, remembered each creak of iron as the jailers passed. And he listened for the voices of his daughters, straining to hear them through walls of layered brick and guarded corridors. PGSQL. No voices reached him, only the river of time, each moment trickling slow as blood from a bound wrist. On the 5th day, he knew it was the 5th by the number of times the rat-faced jailer brought crust and water. Torchlight flared along the corridor, and boots clanged upon the flagstones. Ned lifted his head, blinking as the dungeon door groaned open. Varys entered, hooded in plain wool that smelled of cedar oil. Behind him slunk the jailer, keys jangling nervously. "Leave us," Varys whispered. The jailer obeyed, shuffling back into shadow. When the door shut, the eunuch eased back his hood and produced a slender file from his sleeve. "Stand as straight as you can, my lord," he said. "The chains are rusted, but not so rusted as to break with kindness alone." Ned met his pale, unblinking gaze. "Why aid me now, spider?" "Because webs are delicate, Lord Stark, and the lion has begun tearing mine to shreds. Varys set to work, lips pursed. I warned you at the crossroads of shadow and light that power resided where men believed it did. But belief is fickle. Yesterday the city believed Joffrey its king. Today whispers say the boy is bastard-born. Gold cloaks sneer at their own captains, and even the small folk dart glances at golden hair. Whispers can drown in blood, Ned rasped, wrists ablaze where the file scraped iron. Indeed, Varys agreed, which is why the queen sends ravens south and east. She courts old Volantis for sell-sail fleets, bribes the faith to declare bastardy heresy, and spins tales of northern rebellion. He paused, eyes flicking up. Highgarden's maneuvers spook her more than any northern host. She means to choke the Reach's harvest before the roses bloom. A link parted with a click. Ned exhaled as one arm dropped free, circulation rushing to aching fingers. I must reach Renly, he said. Renly bolted the city in the night. 3 days passed, carrying half the city watch's treasury and escorted by Ser Loras and 40 men. Varys freed the second wrist, then crouched to the anklets. The Queen's knights search every city gate, though Renly now gallops several leagues down the Rose Road. Ned's shoulders sagged. Good. He rides to Highgarden. So rumor says, but the Queen writes to Lord Tarley, promising governorship of the Reach if he marches against his liege. The chain snapped. Ned's feet were free. Agony lanced his calves as he straightened. Hobble slowly, Varys cautioned. He passed a waterskin. Drink. Salt beef awaits in the kitchens if we can pass the guards. Ned took a careful pull, heart hammering. If you spirit me out, what of my daughters? The girls remain pawns, Varys murmured, glancing at the door. Sansa sleeps in chambers strewn with roses and sweet wine, while Ser Island paces outside. Arya wandered off again, last seen near the armory. The hound chases her through corridors, cursing like a storm. Varys allowed a thin smile. The younger she-wolf hides well. Ned wiped water from his beard. We free them first, Spider, or I remain. The eunuch's shoulders slumped the faintest inch. Then we must move quick as summer lightning. He produced a brown tunic and plain breeches from his satchel. Change, he said. You ride tonight with a baker's cart bound for Flea Bottom. From there, my whisperers ferry you by skiff to the upstream mill. A barge awaits, grain sacks on deck, a false bottom in the hold. It floats for Maidenpool at sunset. Ned tugged on the rough spun, muscle screaming. I will not flee the city with my daughters in a queen's grip. You will not flee, my lord hand. You will ride for Storm's End by way of Maidenpool. Varys drew closer, voice thinning to a hiss. A path less watched. When Renly learns you live, he will dare all to recover the girls. Highgarden craves a tale of wolf courage. The realm loves a hero wronged. Let Renly rescue maidens while you carry witness for Stannis. Ned braced his palm on the wall. I would trust Renly with swords, not children. And I would trust Ser Loras to guard each hair upon Sansa's head, Varys countered. Many a would-be queen secures allies by delivering a father his daughters. Think. If Cersei loses her prizes, she loses leverage. She dares not slay them yet. Their deaths would spark war in earnest. But the Tyrells might spirit them away between one feast and the next. Ned's jaw clenched. Too many ifs. Too many blood debts unpaid. Varys slipped the manacles onto a straw dummy propped in the corner, arranging limbs to mimic a slumped captive. Wars are built on ifs. He pressed a rolled parchment into Ned's palm. A cipher the Tyrells taught me long ago. Write your commands in it. Send them north by Raven. Moat Cailin will read and ride. Footfalls echoed outside. Varys flitted to the door, ear pressed. The jailer returns. Follow me now. Ned limped behind, every stride a dagger in his calves. They slipped through the doorway into a torchlit hallway, Varys closing the cell with a click. The eunuch led him past alcoves hewn from bedrock, where rats scurried through straw and prisoners groaned in fevered dreams. At a stairwell he paused, gesturing upward. Kitchen passage, he whispered. Jailer's shift ends at the 8th bell. The yard ahead is empty but for stable hands. Ned inhaled the sour air. And once the city knows I've flown? Varys favored him with a rueful smile. Then the realm will see how quickly a rose can rip open a lion's throat. They ascended. Each step rattled Ned's bones, yet anticipation chased the pain. At the top, a wooden door hung ajar. On the far side lay the scullery, steam rising from boiling pots, junior cooks ladling onion broth. Varys shoved an apron into Ned's hands. "Stir the stew. Keep your head down." With a last nod, Varys melted back into shadow, door whispering shut. Ned pushed into the scullery, steam enveloping him. A gangly boy thrust a wooden spoon at his chest. "Stir," the lad muttered, wiping sweat. The boy didn't glance twice. To him, Ned was another kitchen drudge. Ned stirred, mind racing. The pot's surface teemed with carrots and barley. He counted heartbeats, 8 score, until he heard a clatter beyond the corridor. 2 red-faced cooks rolled a flour cart past, heading toward the yard. Ned abandoned the spoon, snagged a sack of onions, and fell in step behind them. The cooks cursed the rain. None spared him a glance. They pushed through the servants' gate into the damp courtyard where stable boys slopped buckets at dawn. Horses snorted, steam clouding their noses. Ned scanned the yard's perimeter and spied the baker's cart. A lumbering wagon laden with rye loaves, an old white mare between the shafts. Raindrops pattered off its canvas. He ducked beneath the tailgate, wriggling into burlap sacks of coarse meal. Stale crumb dust choked him, but he stilled as voices neared. Portly baker tapped the mare's flank. "Flea bottom by sunup," he told the stable boy. "King's hand or not, poor sods still need bread." The boy grunted, shoved open the postern, and led horse and cart out onto the slick cobblestones. Gate hinges shrieked, then clanked. They were free of the red keep. Ned parted a seam in the canvas. Dawn's bruised light smeared the alley walls. The cart rattled downhill, past shuttered wine shops and the statue of Baylor stumping on its cracked pedestal. Sparrows huddled under eaves, cooing at the cold. None saw the wolf hidden in the bread. At the foot of Hook Hill, the cart lurched across the covered bridge spanning the Blackwater's narrow tributary. Below, sewage mixed with tidewater, brown froth eddying. Flea Bottom rose ahead, ramshackle timber, dingy lanterns burning despite the day. Odors of tallow, horse piss, and boiled cabbage stung Ned's nostrils. The stable boy halted beside a broad-shouldered man wrapped in a patched cloak. "Loaves for the square," he announced. The cloaked man nodded once. His hood tilted back, showing a pock-scarred face Ned did not know. But the stranger's eyes flicked to the cart's rear, and Ned sensed recognition. The boy unharnessed the mare, tethered her to a post. Then he vanished round a corner, whistling. The cloaked man mounted the driver's bench and flicked the reins, guiding horse and cart toward the river gate that opened onto a cluster of wharves. At the 3rd pier, he halted. "Out!" he grunted. Ned eased from hiding, limbs numb. Beyond, the Blackwater lapped against waterlogged pylons where a narrow barge rode at its mooring, sail furled. 2 deckhands waited, women, by their slim frames, faces shadowed beneath straw hats. "Down the rope ladder," the driver murmured. Ned obeyed, boots thudding on the barge deck. The women did not speak. One drew a tarpaulin aside, revealing a hatch blanketed by barley sacks. Ned crawled into the dark hold, lying flat among rough cedar planks. A faint lantern glow revealed a sealed cask of water, smoked eel wrapped in linen, and a folded cloak of moss green trimmed with pale stitching. A Tyrell rose, discreetly embroidered. The hatch shut. Above, the deck hammered as the barge cast off. Ned closed his eyes, felt the river current tug them silently from the city. Hours passed in the dim. He counted or strokes. 20, pause, 20 again, as the boatman sculled upstream, keeping to the marshy eastern bank. Each pause brought a whiff of river mud and the cry of gulls. He nursed water, tore dried eel with aching teeth, then drifted into half-sleep pierced by memory. Sansa's trembling lip, Arya's defiant glare, Circe's dagger at a child's throat. Those visions cut deeper than any chain. At dusk the hatch opened. Lantern light revealed one of the boat women. She pressed a finger to her lips, then handed Ned a bundle. Cloak, riding boots, belt, and dagger of plain steel. "The mill ahead," she whispered, voice low and lilting. "Our knight waits with horses." He emerged onto deck. Twilight cloaked the river in purple haze. Ahead, a half-ruined watermill leaned over the water, wheel creaking. A small jetty jutted from shore where a cloaked rider held 2 steeds. Ned thanked the women harshly, throat raw, climbed to the bank, and swung onto the nearer horse, an iron-gray gelding with feathered fetlocks. Rain drizzled afresh, beating on his beard. The rider turned, revealing a weather-scarred face beneath a travel-worn hood. Howland Reed. Ned's breath caught. "You," he said, wonder and relief mixing. "My lord," Howland replied in his reed-soft voice. "The Crannig sentinels keep watch even south of their swamps." He passed Ned a roll of greased parchment. "Word reached Greywater. I rode 5 days to meet you." Ned clasped his arm. "Your daughter Mira hunts frogs with Bran." Howland smiled faintly. "The young wolf makes her laugh." His gaze sharpened. "But news flies faster than ravens. The Queen's agents hunt every crossing. We ride by marsh paths and forest tracks little known." They set off, hooves squelching through tall grass. Fireflies lit silver sparks in the dusk, and frogs chorused beneath blackthorn. Ned felt the world widen as city stench faded. He breathed pine and damp earth, and for a moment he was again a boy following Howland across the next misty causeways. 2 leagues on, they forded a brook and joined a deer path beneath towering ash. Howland spoke softly. "The north gathers. Robb issues the call to arms. Karstark, Umber, and Mormont banners ride to Winterfell. Moat Cailin readies pits and spikes." Ned's heart surged. His son, a boy no longer, commanded men. "Good," he said, though longing tugged like a hook behind his ribs. "Yet whispers claim Lord Manderly delays," Howland continued. "White Harbor's ships sit idle, awaiting clear command." Ned untied the greased parcel. Inside lay quills, ink, and birchbark scrolls. He slowed the horse to trot. "I will write Wyman," he said, "and Robb, and Stannis." He looked east, where the horizon glowed faintly from King's Landing's torches. "But first I must cross Storm's End." Howland steered his mount into a thicket. "Then the Crannigs shall guide you. We know the ways others forget." They rode through the night, halting at dawn on a hummock above mist-shrouded wetlands. There they found a band of moss-covered huts circling a smoky fire. Crannig men in leather jerkins peered from cattail blinds. Greets muttered in their swirling dialect. A gray-haired woman plucked Ned down and pressed a cup of pine needle brew to his lips. "Warm your bones, Stark," she croaked. "South wind carries knives this season." Ned drank, heat spreading through hollow belly. Howland knelt by the fire and spread the birch scrolls. Ned penned swift letters while frogs croaked and lizards stalked beetles. "Wyman, open your harbor to reach ships bearing barley. Seal them under dark and send them north by the Bight. Robb, hold Moat Cailin. Trust Galbart Glover's rangers for word of my path. Asterisk. Stannis, ride for King's Landing on the wings of law, and speak my name before the throne. Eddard Stark lives, and bears witness. Asterisk. He sealed each with pine sap, then bound them to reed arrows that Howland's men shot skyward toward hidden raven roosts. By second dawn they reached the causeway. Howland's men parted reeds and chipped stones loose to reveal a path of ancient basalt, tumbled remnants of the Children's Road. Ned marveled as they led the horses across stones that glimmered like moonlit ice. "Few recall this way," Howland said, "but Crannigs guard old secrets." They emerged upon firmer ground near Maidenpool's southern marches. Their war stirred. Columns of armored men clogged the King's Road eastward, banners bearing red apples of House Fossaway, green centaurs of Caswell. Ned and Howland lay prone on a ridge, spying through grass. Apples marched behind Caswell, wheels of supply wagons rumbling. Highgarden spears, though their rose banners were furled beneath plain cloth. "Lord Tarley splits Mace's strength," Howland whispered. "See the apple banners? Those Fossaways broke with their cousins." Ned's brow furrowed. "Yet they move east, not north. To siege Storm's End," Howland guessed. "If Tarley binds the gate, Renly cannot pass." Ned's mind spun. Storm's End, Stannis' seat, but held now by a Castellan loyal to Stannis. Renly would push from the south, Tarley's host from the east. Siege or no, Ned must reach the fortress before the Rose host encircled it. They doubled back into wooded hills, skirts of the Kingswood. Crannog guides melted away like herons into marsh, leaving Ned and Howland Al. 1. Howland produced a satchel of jerked eel, shared it while they mapped a route. "Grassy Valles snake west of Bitterbridge," he said, tracing lines in dirt. "Night rides, no campfires. We skirt the Mander."
Ned chewed, nodding.
Hardship he could bear. Time was the sharper foe. Meanwhile in King's Landing, thunder announced dawn, and the Queen awoke to news of the wolf's escape. Cersei flung a goblet against the chamber wall, wine dripping like blood. "Find him," she snarled at Jaime. "Every gate, every sewer." She tore parchment from a page's trembling hand. "Offer 10,000 dragons for his carcass, and another 10 for the heads of those who aided him." Jaime watched the goblet roll. "He'll head north. He'll head for Renly," Cersei spat. "Or Stannis. Or both." She strode to Sansa's bedchamber, where the girl knelt at a window seat stitching a direwolf in gray silk on a white cloth. "Your father fled your king," Cersei told her, honey bitter on her tongue. "A traitor's path. Pray he loves you enough to return." Sansa's needle fell. "Father would never abandon us. We shall see." Cersei turned to the hound standing sentinel. "Sandor, fetch the other girl." The hound's scarred face twisted. "She slipped my nets, your grace." The blacksmith's boy helped her scurry through postern tunnels. "I search every rat hole." The queen smiled thinly. "Find her, dog, or share her kennel." She left, skirts whispering, mind churning. Arya lost, Ned loose, Renly riding. Thrones balanced on the edge of ruin. Yet lions thrived in chaos. She would tighten the snare, send ravens to Casterly Rock, call Tywin to war. Gold would buy sellswords, and power would bend belief anew. In the smoky alcoves of the Red Keep cellars, Peter Baelish met with 2 captains of the City Watch. He counted gold dragons into gloved palms. "The Queen rewards loyalty," he purred, "but I reward silence." He produced a ledger. "Sign here, 300 corals ordered."
Ook shefts, hardened steel tips.
"For practice volleys, naturally." One captain frowned. "We hold no archers' tournament." Baelish's smile cut like broken glass. "We will sare when roses cover our walls, and arrows need targets." Coins clinked. Greed outshone doubt. Far from these machinations, Ned and Howland rode beneath a speckled sky. They watered horses at a moss-ringed spring where dragonflies drifted. Howland knelt, palms cupping water. "Stannis will judge harshly," he said. "He honors law, not mercy. When Dragonstone hears Renly crowned himself." "Renly will not wear a crown," Ned answered. "If I reach him first, he must champion Stannis." Howland's amber eyes regarded him. "And if Renly refuses?" "Gardens and tourneys seduce the young." Ned's silence confessed uncertainty. He rose. "Then I remind him of Robert dying on a boar's tusk, of children damned by incest. I speak of oaths sworn before the gods. If words fail, honor must sway arms." They mounted. Hard earth drummed beneath hooves as they crossed chalk downs dotted with heather. By dusk, the Mander's silver curve glimmered. They halted in a copse of quivering aspens, lying low to watch barges drift. Grain boats flying the wheel of Hightower, sails furled as if sneaking beneath dusk. "Old Town supplies Renly," Howland judged. "Tarley has not sealed the river fully."
Ned scan Ned barges.
One flew no pennant, crew muffled in cloaks. But on the stern, faint against aging paint, he glimpsed a six-petaled rose. Tyrell scouts. Ned's pulse quickened. "We borrow a boat," he said. "Night will hide us better upon water than open plain." Howland grinned. "Crannigs are born boat thieves." At moonrise they slipped their horses into a thicket where reeds masked snorts. Then they waded the marsh fringe, reeds rustling. At the barge's tethering stone, two deckhands dozed, wine skins beside them. Howland tossed spore powder of blackthorn at their faces. The men slumped deeper. Ned cast off the stern line, then took the tiller while Howland drew the small sail. River wind caught canvas and carried them southward, moonlight tracing silvery paths along ripples. They sailed through night's hush. Twice a patrol galley passed, torches guttering. Ned steered into rush beds, breath held while dragonflies whispered around them. At dawn the river broadened into tidal marsh. Herons flapped overhead. The salt tang of the summer sea drifted faintly. They moored in a hidden inlet and changed clothes, Howland into fisherman's rags, Ned into the moss-green cloak bearing the subtle rose. "We walk into camp as Tyrell outriders returning from scouting," Howland said. "Sentries will question, but names matter less than nerve." They trudged through dew-soaked reeds toward the sounds of a stirring host. Ahead, tents rose along the high ground. Rows of striped canvas, banners furled but unmistakable. The green and gold of House Tyrell, the golden rose, the field of white with red stripes of House Rowan, the apple of Fossaway bound in red. Pennants snapped in the sea breeze, and the air clanged with smiths hammering spearheads, oxen bellowing, men barking orders. Ned drew up his hood. Howland slung eel nets over one shoulder. They approached a cookfire where a sentry nursed tea. "Rough night," Howland quipped, voice country thick. "River patrol near lost a sail. Captain Linder sends us for barley." The sentry yawned. "Stores tents yonder." He pointed with a crust of bread. Howland nodded, steering Ned between pavilions. Soldiers marched in loose drill. Many lacked Tyrell livery, hedge knights and hireling spearmen. The sheer numbers astonished Ned. 20,000, perhaps more. Yet he searched for rose-bannered knights of Mace's personal retinue. Shining helms, plumes. They clustered near the command pavilion, a towering green tent embroidered with golden vines. Armed guards stood taut at stakes. Howland stopped behind a wagon. "We separate," he whispered. "I circle left, loose the horses near the pickets, cause a fuss. You walk straight into that tent. Ask for Lord Renly or Ser Loras. Speak nothing of me." Ned clasped his shoulder. "The gods watch, old friend." Howland's lips quirked. "Which gods?" "Southrons pray to 7 strangers." Ned's smile was grim. "Mine here through ice and weirwood alike." Then he strode into the camp's heart. 2 green cloak guards blocked his path. Their surcoats bore twining roses. "State your business," one barked. Ned tilted back his hood. "I am Eddard Stark of Winterfell. Announce me at once to Lord Renly Baratheon." The guards froze, eyes widening. One stammered, "Lord Stark, escaped?" But hoofs thundered somewhere behind. Shouts rose. Horses neighed wildly, Howland's mischief begun. In the confusion, Ned shoved between the guards and ducked past the tent flap. Inside, the air smelled of bay leaf and oiled steel. Renly Baratheon stood over a map table strewn with carved figures. Stags, roses, wolves, lions.
Celuras Tyrell adjusta a pauldrun on Renly's shoulder.
At Ned's entrance, Renly's eyes flared green. "Gods be good," he breathed. Loras whirled, hand half drawn to pommel, but recognition softened his steely gaze. "You live," Renly said. "For the moment," Ned replied. He bowed his head. "But the realm dies by inches while we quarrel. Will you ride with me to Storm's End and swear fealty to Lord Stannis?" Loras frowned. Renly's jaw set, but Ned pressed on. "Roberts will name Stannis heir. The people need unity, not rival crowns." Renly circled the table, green cape swirling. "Stannis is flint. Flint sparks rebellion. Better a hard king than a false one." Ned retorted. He drew parchment from his cloak, the signed will retrieved from Varys's satchel. Law carries weight, Renly. You risk plunging the realm into blood-soaked fields. Already Tarly marches here to encircle Storm's End under the Queen's promise of governorship. Loras's features tightened. My lord father would never bend knee to lion schemes. Yet his bannermen twist, Ned said, and Cersei fans their pride. Renly paced. We have strength, numbers, wealth. Highgarden feeds half the south, and winter chokes half the north, Ned interrupted. Ice will claim your fields ere summer's end. Trust me. When snows fall in the reach, wind howls like wolves you have never heard. Renly halted, fists clenched. He looked to Loras, their eyes locking in some silent parley. At length he faced Ned. Ride with me to Bitterbridge. Parley with Lord Tarly. Show him this will. If we turn his host, our strength doubles. Then perhaps Stannis listens. But if Stannis spurns unity, I must claim the crown for the realm's sake. Ned exhaled, sensing the tremor in fate's threads. Then let us ride at once. But know this, should you take that crown, you will find the north arrayed behind Winterfell's direwolves. Renly offered a hand. And should we forge one realm, I will name the wolf its guardian. They clasped forearms. Outside, horns blared. Tarly's vanguard spotted near the Mander's Bend. Renly barked orders. Couriers sprinted. Loras arrayed himself in resplendent rose-green armor, mounting a silver mare. Ned swung astride a dappled courser offered by a Tyrell squire. Howland Reed appeared at his stirrup, mud-spattered. Stirred the hornets, he said, eyes dancing. 5 horses loose, tents ablaze. Ned grinned despite fear. Well done. They formed into a narrow column. Renly at point, 20 knights behind, banners still furled. Ned rode third rank, Howland at his flank. They set off south toward Bitterbridge at a canter, thunderheads massing overhead. On the ridge, Tarly's standards advanced. A striding huntsman with bow drawn, flanked by apple banners red and green. The earth quaked with boots and hooves, but Loras lifted his visor, rose blossom plume fluttering. He thrust a white lance skyward, empty flagpole a call for parley. Tarly's outriders slowed. Ned steeled himself. Words could avert a slaughter, words could fail. Behind them, in Tyrell camp, trumpets sounded. Green and gold banners unfurled, each bearing the rose of Highgarden. Like a field of new blossoms they rippled in the dawn wind, rows upon rows, until the hills seemed alive with color. And somewhere far away, on icy parapets of Winterfell, a boy lord rallied gray banners still stiff with frost. The Game of Thrones tilted, whispering of alliances yet unmade, betrayals yet unsprung, and wars perhaps still avoidable if honor's voice proved louder than gold. But the wind carried rumors of snow and ash, and the land held its breath as wolf, rose, and stag met upon a plain bright with early spring flowers and dark with the shadow of swords. Eddard Stark urged his horse forward, parchment of Robert's will tucked safe within breast pocket, the promise of his daughter's freedom burning in his heart like a heathfire against winter. Beyond Bitterbridge the Stormlands waited, and with them the austere walls of Storm's End, and the one brother who still might hold the realm together by force of law and grim resolve. The tale lengthened like twilight over the world, and the next chapter strode toward them on iron-shod hooves. The mists above the Mander burned away under early light, revealing a plain quilted in dew and trampled grass. Ned Stark reined his courser on a rise west of Bitterbridge and studied the armies that sprawled across the lowlands like rival caravans converging on a single well. Hours earlier his little column, Renly, Loras, Howland, and 20 rose-plumed outriders, had slipped past Tyrell pickets and crossed a timber footbridge arcing over the river's tributary. Now they waited within bowshot of Lord Randall Tarly's encampment, where banners of red apple and striding huntsmen rippled above tents stitched in sober browns and greens. Ned's horse snorted, stamping. Damp earth rose in clods. To his right, Renly fussed with a glove, frowning at distant siege wagons lined with bundled lumber and iron mantlets. Tarly wastes no mourning, he muttered. He would ring Storm's End in walls of his own. Ned rested gauntlet hands on the pommel. Walls make poor crowns. Loras Tyrell edged his silver mare closer, helm tucked beneath one arm. Ser Randall respects only swordcraft and discipline. Speak to that, my lords, and he will listen. He offered Ned a half-smile. He named me Popinjay once, yet spared me mockery after I unhorsed him in tourney. Howland Reed chuckled from beneath his hood. Even Reed's bend, he said, voice soft as marsh grass. But break his pride, and Tarley will lash back. Renly lifted his visor. Better we bridle that pride. He turned to Ned. Ride with me, and let the wolf's chill temper the huntsman's fire. They nudged mounts forward, descending toward the Tarley lines. Trumpets sounded ahead, brisk and stern. Rows of spearmen shuffled into formation. Ned felt eyes rake him. Northern leathers mud-spattered, moss-green cloak disguising the dire wolf for now. He caught whispers. Stark? Dead, they said. Lions lied again. But most stared at Renly's polished emerald breastplate, the half-moon crown hugging his black curls. Wolves and roses might have been phantoms. The stag commanded their gaze. A hedge of soldiers barred the path. Their captain, stocky in mail dark with oil, bowed curtly. My lords, he intoned. Ser Randall expects 2 envoys only. Renly inclined his head.
Ser Loras atentens minhas shield.
Ser Ned Stark attends as witness to his grace King Robert's will. He drew forth the rolled parchment. We come in peace and in law. The captain's brow twitched, but he stepped aside, barking orders. Lances lifted, forming an arch. Renly and Ned rode through, Loras and Howland trailing, boots splashing shallow puddles. Tarley's command tent rose upon a hummock overlooking the field, canvas dark as dried blood. Outside, 2 young squires sparred with willow sticks while an older knight shouted timing. They halted as the envoys approached, eyes widening at the sight of Ice's wolf-head pommel over Ned's shoulder. Inside the tent, they found Lord Randall Tarley bent over a warboard. His form dwarfed the pine table, broad shoulders cased in undecorated blackened steel, sword belted high. Gray streaked his beard like ash and coal. He glanced up, expression granite. Renly, he said, voice low thunder. You arrive unannounced, and before dawn's mid-bell. Renly removed his helm with a flourish, curls springing free. Daylight wastes while lions prowl, my lord. I'd sooner beg pardon for haste than bleed for idleness. Tarley snorted. Charming, yet charm feeds no troops. He turned to Ned. You, Stark, are meant to languish in a cell. Explain your presence among green boys and pretty plumes. Ned drew back his hood, revealing hair silvered by frost and captivity. I stand free by my own will, sire, and by the late King Robert's. Here, he unfurled the parchment, is the sealed decree naming me regent until Lord Stannis sits the Iron Throne. Signatures of the small council attest. Jaime Lannister's knives forced my flight. Tarley examined the seal, his brows knitting. Small council? Lannister daggers? And yet you travel with Renly Baratheon, who schemes crown for himself. Renly stiffened. I seek to guard the realm. Stannis broods in a stone keep, counting laws while Cersei sharpens her claws. Law is bedrock, Ned said, voice even. Stannis is Robert's rightful heir. Renly meets you today not to claim your sword, but to ask you stand with us for truth. Tarley circled the table. Wooden tokens marked Storm's End, the King's Road, and armsmen encampments. He tapped a red cube at the fortress. Storm's End holds 400 men. My scouts say Stannis sails from Dragonstone with 30 ships, 2,000 loyalists, and Selsail carracks from Pentos. If he lands before I breach those gates, we face siege against Pincer. He eyed Renly. You offer what? 10,000 reach spears under my banner, Renly said. Tyrell knights, Rowan bowmen. Enough to raise the siege, not tighten it. He planted a stag-carved piece beside the red cube. Together we escort Stannis within his walls, proclaim him king, and march on King's Landing united. You expect me, Tarley said. To withdraw my lines and yield laurels to a brother who never smiles nor sings? I expect you to honor your duty. Renly shot back, emerald eyes hardening. And to avenge your slain king. Silence compressed the tent. Tarly's jaw worked. At last he gestured to a stool. Sit, Lord Renly. Ser Stark, you as well. He unstrapped his gauntlets, palms scarred from years of sword and bow. We will weigh each coin of this bargain. They spoke for an hour while dawn strengthened outside and crowned helmets glinted. Ned listened, interjecting when passion flared. He laid bare the queen's incest, the forged line of Joffrey, the gold cloak's betrayal, Varys' secret counsel. Tarly's stare remained unblinking, but Ned sensed storm clouds shifting behind that slate gaze. When voices fell, Tarly exhaled. He took the parchment, pressed his signet, a leaping huntsman into fresh wax. I will parley with Lord Rowan and Fossaway the Elder, he said. If they share our resolve, Bitterbridge turns green and gray this night. Renly sagged in relief. Your honor gladdens me, sir. Spare me flattery, Tarly rumbled. Your path is thorned. The queen's ravens flew 4 days past. Tywin Lannister marches from Harrenhal with 20,000 swords of gold and steel. If he reaches King's Landing before we do, his lion will devour our roses. Ned's stomach tightened. Robb Stark gathers the north, he said. But crossing the Neck and Riverlands takes weeks. Tywin moves swifter. Tarly snatched a quill, sketching upon the map. We circumvent Lannister, march east of Kingswood to Storm's End, secure Stannis, then swing north along the coast to Rose Road Forks. Cut the King's Road beneath Tywin's tail. Trap him between Lion's Rock and Iron Throne. Renly studied the route. Ambitious. Necessary. Tarly's eyes flicked to Ned. Send your swiftest riders to Winterfell. Tell the young wolf we strike for the heart come midsummer.
Ned nodded grimly.
He will answer. They sealed their compact with wine poured from a plain iron pitcher. Ned sipped. The vintage tasted of black currant and iron. A huntsman's wine. Outside, horns blared thrice, signal of council among lords. Renly and Ned stepped into sunlight, blinking. Armored men converged on a central field where Rowan, Fossaway of the Red Apple, and Selwyn Tarth already waited. Banners lethal with embroidery stirred overhead. The blue and yellow sunburst of House Tarth, the green apple of Fossaway the True, and more besides. When Tarly strode forth, murmur died. He raised the parchment and roared. The huntsman stands with the stag and the wolf. Cheer and clamor, but also startled hushes. Lord Rowan stepped forward, mustaches bristling. We are Tyrell bannermen, he declared, voice ringing. Where rides the rose? Loras Tyrell answered, spurring his mare before the lords. He drew his sword, turned the blade flat for all to see. The steel's polished surface reflected sunrise. The rose blooms, he said, clear and young and fierce. He slashed the air, then knelt. And its thorns guard the realm. Rowan blinked. Fossaway barked a laugh. Tarth raised his gauntlet. I'll follow a flower that pricks lions, he called. And one by one, riders unsheathed swords, beating them on shields in thunderous cadence. Thus Bitterbridge declared. 6 hours later, Rowan and Fossaway detachments redeployed, leaving campfires cold in their wake. The Tyrell host broke tents quickly, green banners lifting again. Scout S galloped north and east to mislead prying eyes, while the main column pivoted south-southeast toward rain-clouded horizons. Renly's command traveled light at column's head. Ned rode among them, mind racing across leagues and possibilities. Behind, Howland Reed conversed in low tones with 2 Crannog outriders who joined mid-march. Their frog-speared banners drew curious looks from Reach Knights, but no challenge, for the silver wolf pinned to Ned's cloak commanded silent respect. The road south changed from packed dirt to stony causeway flanked by bog. Somewhere in that marsh Howland's riders veered off, swallowing into reeds. Howland explained, they skirt the vanguard, harry any watchers. Swamps have ears. 2 nights later lightning stitched ragged burns across a cobalt sky. Rain-hammered tents pitched on a dry ridge above the Stormland's border. Ned lay awake, counting thunderheads, listening to banners whip in torrents. Across the pavilion, Renly snored softly, exhaustion conquering crown and cares. Ned rose, wrapped cloak, and slipped outside. Rain numbed his hair to scalp. Chill seeped into bones long since cold. He walked between supply wagons toward a lonely rise where a weirwood branch, pale and fallen, lay atop a wagon axle, souvenir a northern outrider had saved from a storm-felled tree outside Maidenpool. Ned knelt beside it, tracing red sap veins resembling dried blood. He whispered prayers to old gods and new, prayers for Sansa's courage, Arya's swift feet, and for Robb's swords to stay sheathed until time was ripe. Hoofbeats thudded nearby. He rose, hand to dagger. Out of darkness emerged a rider cloaked in midnight oilcloth. Torchlight flickered off wet mail. A direwolf badge gleamed. The rider dismounted, threw back hood. It was Hallie's Hornwood, gaunt cheeks hollow from hard travel. "My lord," Hallie's rasped. "Ravens failed, the skies stuffed with hawks. So we rode." He produced 2 letters sealed with blue wax. From Robb and Galbart Glover. Ned led him under a kettle helm canopy where torch sputtered. He broke the first seal. Robb's handwriting, bold yet hurried. "Father, Moat Caelan holds. Bolton feigns fealty. Fry demands pledge of Princess Arya for crossing. I refused. 10,000 march south. Await word at Twins. Let the north strike when wolf, stag, and rose howl together." Ned's chest warmed with pride and dread. Glover's missive warned. Scouts report lion host east of Harrenhal. 3 days to God's eye. Tywin drives river lords before him. Beware crossings at Wendwater. Ned crushed the wax. The pincer closed. Every day counted. Next dawn, Renly convened council under rain-striped canvas. Maps soaked, ink blurred. "We push west of Storm's End," he decided. "Break Cersei's cordon before Tywin reaches Massey's Hook." Tarly concurred, yet urged speed. Sea lanes report Lannister galley Lannisport anchoring near Blackwater mouth, offloading Sellswords. "If their fleet manages to land more before we free Stannis, we fight 2 fronts on coast." Loras volunteered a daring flank ride. 500 knights to sweep downship landings, burning supply barges. Renly granted permission. "But no tourney tricks," he warned. Loras grinned and spurred off, banner streaming. For days they rode in staggered files through Stormland's hinterlands, rolling hills where rain-scarred boulders jutted like dragon teeth, and valleys where wind moaned through burned crofts, casualties of preceding foragers. Ned glimpsed small folk huddling in ruined barns, clutching children, eyes huge with fear as any armed column passed. He ordered wagons to leave sacks of oats, though supplies grew thin. "Feed them and we feed ourselves," he told a complaining quartermaster. "A man whose belly is filled does not loose arrows at passing knights." An afternoon gust delivered distant boom of surf. Storm's End not far. Scouts returned breathless. Tarly's siege begun. Mantlets advanced to Outer Dyke. Trebuchets assembled. Yet banners no longer apple red, they flew green peace flags withheld from assault. The garrison answered with no arrows, only silent watch. At dusk, Renly's vanguard emerged from a tree-lined ridge and saw the fortress. Storm's End perched upon a sheer cliff, ancient walls curving like the crescent of a moon, stone black against tempest sky. Below, siege lines wreathed the landward side. Palisades, ditches, pikes' campfires flickered in concentric rings. Renly called halt at a ridge opposite the siege field. Horn blasts signaled truce. White lanterns flickered along Tarly's perimeter. Ned, Renly, and Howland rode to rendezvous near a half-built trebuchet. Tarly strode forth, helm tucked under arm. "Courtenay Penrose holds the gate," he reported. "Stannis's castellan won't yield until he sees his lord's standard or his corpse." Renly dismounted, cloak swirling. "Then let us fetch the man himself." He gestured behind. From the ranks emerged a small column of sailors and knights wearing a fiery heart beneath Stag's head, Stannis's livery. At their head strode Ser Davos Seaworth, black beard shot with gray, eyes bright. Davos bowed. "Lord Hand," he greeted Ned, soft surprise in his voice. "Word spread you were slain. Rumors sprout faster than truth," Ned answered, gripping his arm. "Where is Stannis?" "Landing at Rain House tomorrow," Davos said. His ships slipped galleons blockading Shipbreaker Bay, thanks to smugglers' channels. He smiled wryly. Old tricks earn new trust. Renly's eyes sharpened. Rain House lies a league south. If Tartha's galleys screen the shore, my own longboats can escort him here by midday. Renly looked to Tarly. "Hold your siege lines. Send a rider to Penrose. Stannis lifts the siege on the morrow." Tarly nodded. "Aye, but caution. Penrose is as wary as a crow atop Winterfell's walls." He glanced at Ned. "Begging pardon."
Ned smiled thinly.
"Crows and wolves watch same sky." He turned to Davos. "Tell Stannis I bring the king's will and the realm's hope." That night, campfires speckled the dark hillside. Ned could not sleep. He walked beyond pickets to a cliff edge where waves pounded rock far below. Lightning flared, illuminating breakers worthless to scale. He thought of Catelyn in Winterfell's solar, reading ravens by hearth glow. Did she sense the tide turning? Thunder cracked. In its roar, he heard footsteps approach. Howland Reed emerged, cloak-soaked. "Ghosts walk these cliffs," he whispered. "I keep company with too many already," Ned replied. They stood together, wind-whipping cloaks. Howland spoke low. "I found Lannister tracks near yesterday's ford. Light prints, gold-shod steeds. Scouts disguised as peddlers, perhaps." Ned's shoulders tensed. "Send your Cranigs to shadow them." "I will." Yet other shadows loom. Howland pointed seaward. Lightning revealed sails far off, triangular dots bobbing. Could be Stannis's fleet, or Lannister galleys hunting.
Ned frowned.
If Tywin controls the bay, Stannis must divert north, lengthening our fight. Rain drove harder. They turned back toward camp. At dawn, fog blanketed the plain. Trumpets clove the damp as Tyrell Tarly ranks reformed, ready to greet Stannis. Ned stood with Renly on the forward earthwork, squinting seaward. At first he saw nothing. Then gray shapes materialized through fog, rowboats pulled by swarthy sailors, each flying the crowned stag within fiery heart. At their prow, unsubtle horns brayed. On the largest boat, Stannis Baratheon himself stood tall, jaw set like quarried stone, black cloak snapping. The boats grounded on the pebble beach below the cliffs. Tyrell sailors tossed rope. Ladders dropped. Stannis climbed first, boots slipping only once. At top of the cliff he paused, scanning investment lines, eyes cold as north water. Renly stepped forward. "Brother," he called. Stannis's gaze fixed on him.
"No imbras."
"You wear a crown?" Renly touched the circlet of dark steel ringed by stag horns. "A symbol until law shapes itself." Stannis snorted. "Law shaped itself at Dragonstone. I am king by right." Ned interceded, holding forth the parchment. "My lord's Robert's will. It names Stannis heir, and me regent until throne secured. Signed by council, minus those corrupted by Cersei." Stannis took the parchment, scanning briskly. Pycelle's shaking scrawl, Baelish flatterloops. "Varys," he grunted. Renly's name absent. "I rode from the city before signature," Renly said. "But my sword stands for you now. The realm requires unity." "Unity?" Stannis's lip curled. "While you courted reach lords and whispered of your own crown, unity bled upon the thrones." He thrust the parchment back. "I accept your fealty, no less." Renly's jaw clenched. Loras nearby gripped a lance. Knights shifted. Ned felt tension coil like drawn crossbow. He raised both hands. "Stannis, every sword here turns against the lion. Would you shatter them on pride? Listen as hand, if not as friend. Accept their banners, and the 7 kingdoms stand ready to march. Robb Stark brings 10,000 from the north. Lord Tully wrests Riverlands from Tywin. Together we present force unmatched." Stannis measured him. You barter with promises. But I know you, Stark. You do not speak lightly. He turned to Renly. Kneel, and I name you Lord Paramount of Reach, Warden of South. Renly's nostrils flared. You offer what is my inheritance, taken when Mace Tyrell advocated Tyrell rank over that of my sworn office. I will kneel, brother, but not in chains. Stannis's eyes narrowed. Ned saw possibility slipping away like sand through fingers. Before words could sharpen, a horn blast jarred the air. From siege lines nearest Storm's End, all heads snapped. Smoke rose beyond ridgeline. A scout galloped, cloak plastered. Trebuchet ablaze, my lords. Valentine Sell's words strike the siege from within. Ned's heart lurched. Onslaught without and betrayal within, Cersei's reach long indeed. Stannis barked orders. Davos, to the boats. Seal the bay. Renly, ride with Tarly to eastern lines. He glanced at Ned. You guard the king. Ned blinked, then nodded. Howland drew 2 crannigs near him. Wolfguard, he murmured. They mounted swift coursers and spurred toward smoke. Ned's blood thundered, a clarity he'd not felt since Robert's rebellion. Spears chopped overhead. Archers scrambled to butts. Ned roared, "Shields up!" as crossbow bolts hissed from within trenches. Sell's words disguised as siege laborers. At the forward battery, fire leapt along siege timber soaked in oil. Valentine axemen hacked at ropes, freeing a gatehouse cart to barrel downhill toward Storm's End's bastion. If the cart reached, defenders might misread and sally at wrong moment. Ned wheeled his courser, intercepting. He urged the horse into a gallop across soggy ground, ice unsheathed. Rain plastered hair to brows. Vision blurred. Yet he leaned, swung. Ice's Valyrian edge sliced cart's rawhide harness. The vehicle yawed, axle cracking, tumbling into a ditch where it smoldered harmless. A cheer rose from nearby reach levies. But more foes surged beyond. Mercenaries with curved blades, red scarves masking faces.
Ned braced.
Arrows whistled, Howland's crannigs perched in oak above, loosing shaft after shaft, each strike precise. 2 Sell's words collapsed, others faltered. Ned pressed attack, ice metal humming. He parried a scimitar, riposted, steel bit flesh, blood mixing with rain. Another lurched, spear aimed for Ned's flank. A crannig dart axis flew, thunking into the man's throat. The battle became a whirl of mud and sparks until horns sounded retreat. Remaining Sell's words fled through smoke toward hidden bolt holes along cliff, vanishing like ghosts. When silence fell, Ned's lungs burned. He looked to burning Trebuchet. Tyrell sappers doused flames with sand. Stannis rode up, flanked by Davos and grim guards. Hold fast, the Lord of Dragonstone commanded. Those ashcats will not breach my walls. Ned wiped blood from brow. The Queen's purse funds them. Lions roar across seas now. Stannis met his eyes. Then we cut their tongue. He turned to Davos. Fetch Penrose. The Gior must open the gate. We rebuild siege defensively.
No assault.
Renly arrived, helm dented from glancing blow. Loras at his heel, visor spattered. Eastern lines secure, Renly reported. He unsnapped his battered crown, staring at the bent metal. Perhaps Storm's End forges heavier steel than my pride. He knelt, mud squelched under plates. Loras removed sword, laid it across his palms. Renly proffered weapon to Stannis. I, Renly of House Baratheon, pledge sword and banner to Stannis, first of his name, King of the Undulls and the First Men. His voice cracked only once. Long may he reign. Loras bent knee. Tarly followed. Rowan, Fossaway, all. Thunder rolled overhead. Stannis lifted the sword, resting cold edge on Renly's pauldron. Rise, Lord Renly Baratheon, Warden of the South. Defend my crown as you would your honor. Cheers erupted, echoing across bastion and bay. Ned felt weight ease on his ribs, not gone, but shifted. That night, a feast of salted venison and barley stew stoked new fellowship within command tents. Rain slackened. Torches glimmered on wet canvas. Ned sat between Davos and Howland, listening to Rowan recount the Sellsword route, Tarly grumble about undisciplined archers, Loras challenge Brienne of Tarth to spar at dawn. Stannis approached Ned, expression unreadable. "You saved my siege and my brother's soul," he said. "The realm owes you." Ned shook his head. "Save me thanks until my daughters stand free." Stannis's eyes darkened. "They will. Cersei cannot hide behind bastards long. When I sit the throne, her trial will be swift." He lowered voice. "But for now, King's Landing stands lion-guarded, and Tywin nears the Blackwater. We march in 3 days. Rally your wolves."
Ned drained Flagoon.
"Ravens fly north tonight." Yet as he rose to draft dispatches, Davos touched his sleeve. "Lord Hand," a whisper reached me from shipfolk ashore. "Varys's little birds chirp that Queen Cersei sends an envoy to treat with Dorne. She seeks sand vipers for her defense." Ned's brow furrowed. "If Dorne aligns with the Queen, southern sands may bleed rose and stag alike." Howland leaned close. "I have friends of the green blood. Crannogboats slip to Sunspear unseen. We might steal that treatise before quills meet parchment." Stannis crossed arms. "Do it. And if Dorne courts treason, I sack Sunspear by year's end." Ned considered the chessboard inside his head. North, Riverlands, Stormlands, reach united. Yet Dorne uncertain, Vale inert, Ironborn prowling. So many pieces. He closed eyes, recalling Robert's laugh, Lyanna's tears, the promises made beneath Tower of Joy. For years he had served peace by restraint. Now he served it by war. Yet memory warned, war births widows. War devours honor as wildfire devours wood. When he wrote Robb that night, he softened ink with father's hope. Hold the neck, he urged. Parley with Blackfish. Keep riverlords firm. March only when Tyrell flags join ours beneath Storm's End's walls. And tell your mother I live yet. Tell Bran he may ride again when snows melt. Tell Rickon to guard his heart. He sealed the letter with a smear of northern pine sap. Then he penned one more to Sansa if chance ever bore it. Remember the birch leaf, he wrote, and keep faith. Wolves run truer in darkness. Across the camp, Renly tested a new crown. Plain steel circlet gifted by Stannis himself. He tried it on, shrugged, and left it upon a stump unclaimed. Loras chuckled. Not to your liking? Renly smiled, weary. Crowns weigh too heavy once you feel their thorns. 3 dawns later Storm's End's ancient gates groaned outward, and King Stannis rode forth under black stag banners fringed with fire. Behind him marched the green legions of Highgarden, the disciplined ranks of Randall Tarly, the lean spears of Stormland's castles, and a modest shield wall of Northmen bearing borrowed standards yet proud. Ned rode among Kingsguard newly formed, Renly's chosen knights, Stannis's veterans, Reed's stealthy marshmen trailing like driftwood shadows. Inside Storm's End, Courtenay Penrose rehoisted the Baratheon stag above ramparts. Cannons of ancient make primed with powder Davos smuggled in last tide. The castle's forges hammered day and night, shaping siege hooks and firepots. For ahead lay the greatest siege of all, King's Landing. News filtered of Tywin Lannister encamping at the Trident's mouth, uncertain which foe to face. Behind him Robb Stark crossed the twins unchallenged after Walder Frey accepted proxies. No hostage daughters for crossing, but promises of future marriages and a seat on the council. The gaggle of Freys rode south behind Robb, their gray skins fluttering like dun moths, each seeking favor. Thus spring thawed across the kingdoms with clamor of steel and growl of banners. Yet within the Red Keep Cersei Lannister stitched power still. She convened Maester Pycelle, bidding him distill wildfire. She bribed the Alchemists' Guild for higher yield. She whispered to faithless Sellswords in dark gardens. And she summoned a red priestess newly arrived from Ass High, her eyes like coals and her words of shadow and flame. Sansa Stark watched silently at her queen's elbow, needle trembling in hand as the priestess spoke of stones bleeding and dragons reborn. But in her heart a birch leaf glowed, white bark, slender veins, and she remembered her father's promise. Arya, far below, crouched amid dragon skulls in the black cellars, clutching needle drawn anew. She had followed cats, dodged guards, traded coin for secrets, and now traced tunnels whispered by a butcher's boy before his voice was silenced by Cersei's coins. Ahead lay a grate that breathed sea air, her pathway beyond lion walls. From the north ghost ravens flew, eyes glinting blue under moon. They bore letters of sap and weirwood to be read by maesters who tasted the scent of snow within each curl of script. They flew above green marsh, over hold of phrase, through thunder above God's eye, and on to Dragonstone where they perched upon ramparts as volcano heat rose. And through it all Ned Stark rode, Ice at hip, Howland Reed at flank, Renly and Loras debating banners in jest, Tarly drilling crossbowmen, Stannis silent yet resolute, Davos tallying barrels of provisions, and the thousands behind them stepping in rhythm to drums that echoed the heartbeat of a realm poised between fire and frost. The King's Road unfurled ahead, a serpent of mud and stone coursing north. Somewhere beyond its horizon waited a golden host, a frightened boy king, and a queen too clever by half. But also awaiting were iron bells tolling freedom, sisters clinging to hope, and a people who would choose at last which beast should lead them. Wolf, lion, stag, or perhaps rose. Ned's gaze fixed on a sky where clouds shredded, revealing a single pale star above dawn. He thought of the words carved on his father's tomb. He knelt to no storm but winter, and he whispered to that star, "Winter is not the end, it is the reckoning." Hooves beat faster, banners caught the rising wind, and the march to King's Landing began.